Hi everyone, First Alert Meteorologist Anthony Baglione here. We will get going in just a second for us on this Friday evening talking about the winter weather headed this way this weekend. I know lots of people probably going to have questions on this. We're going to hope to clarify what I can, kind of walk through the timing, talk about the potential impacts. Lots to go over here. Again, I'll give you just a second to hop on. We have YouTube, Facebook questions always popping in, so make sure to ask whatever is on your mind, and I will do my best to get to it. So let me go back here to this graphic. This tells the story, right? Look at all of the colors that are showing up on there. This is a map of the current alerts, winter alerts specifically focused across the country. There are winter storm warnings outlined in the pink where they're looking at a greater chance of some snow, some sleet, and freezing rain. We have winter weather advisories there in the purple. We're looking at, of course, the winter weather in the form of ice. So we have ice storm warnings that came out early this morning, and we've seen that pretty consistent through today. But this is just a massive storm system. There are parts of the Ohio Valley looking at over a foot of snow. Like we talked about yesterday, this is not going to be a snowy system for us. I think the freezing rain is going to be our primary impact. We will get some regular rain Sunday afternoon, and I'll tell you here in just a little bit why that will still be an issue, even if it melts some things to close out the weekend. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to post them on here. I'll do my best to kind of go back and forth, YouTube and Facebook. We are streaming, and I will look at the questions. Let's go forward here to a timeline for the weekend. So Saturday morning into the afternoon, we are still quiet for the majority of us. That's a bit of an update since yesterday. The timing has been pushed back just a little bit closer to Saturday night. There may be the chance, and I'll show you First Alert Futurecast here in a second, for the far northern parts of the state to see a little bit of spotty freezing drizzle as early as Saturday afternoon. Most of us should be quiet until after about 7 p.m. Saturday evening. That likely will continue into Sunday morning. Then we go into Sunday afternoon. It transitions to some rain, a little bit of freezing rain still potentially, but mostly rain Sunday afternoon. And then any moisture that falls with that will refreeze Sunday night. So that's going to be kind of a key thing with this system. Here's what I want you to know, though, as far as the alerts in our neck of the woods in North Georgia. So the ice storm warning, you see the purple shaded color contour right there. Just about all of us. That was upgraded from the winter storm watch that we talked about this time yesterday. What the National Weather Service is specifically highlighting in the ice storm warning is for a 1/4 inch of ice up to an inch. And I know that is a huge range. The inch totals, and I'm going to show you another kind of depiction of this, they would be closer to our northeastern counties. I do not expect widespread inch totals. It's going to be more a select few. Helen, for instance, LJ, I'm more concerned about you seeing an inch versus the city of Atlanta. I think we will likely be closer to about the 1/2 inch, even let's say a 1/4 to 1/2 inch in downtown Atlanta. Where you see the winter storm watch in the blue, there are still going to be impacts there, but they start to drop off the farther south you go, likely up to a 1/4 inch of ice. Think just a slight glazing on surfaces. That's probably what we're expecting for a place like Carrollton, even into Griffin. All right, let's talk about the timing on this. Nothing really, thankfully, has shifted. We go into Saturday afternoon. You can see the pink up to the top of your screen. That's a little bit of freezing rain. Our far northern counties may see a little bit of that coming in. Most of this coverage, though, watch how this fills in Saturday night. There is 10 o'clock when you should be inside, hunkered down, let this thing pass on by. We're going to be looking at some pretty significant freezing rain at that point. It's cold air that's really forced up close to the mountains, and it is going to stay locked in right there and not move much. All of that you see right there is freezing rain. That continues. There's 6 o'clock Sunday morning. We still have freezing rain for the large majority of us. When we start to see a transition to rain and potentially some very heavy rain is Sunday afternoon. There is 2 o'clock. You can see it starts to push on through. That will melt anything that has accumulated as far as the ice. So Sunday afternoon, things should start to melt. However, Sunday night, temperatures drop into the 20s. And so it will not be long before any moisture that's left on surfaces is going to flash freeze, and we'll have some big-time issues again Monday morning. There won't be anything falling on Monday as far as additional rain, additional freezing rain, but we are still looking at a pretty significant refreeze concern there to start Monday. Here's a look at the forecast as far as the ice totals are concerned. This is the latest model. Again, I think the inch totals would be highly confined to those northeastern counties closest to the mountains. We get into Atlanta, we're looking at, let's say, again, a quarter to about a half an inch of some ice. We have about a half inch there in Covington, 0.6 in Athens. Any of those totals, enough to cause some big problems. So that's why we're encouraging just stay off the roads. It is not going to be a good weekend to be out. There's a look as far as the totals are concerned, what we could see as far as the impacts. You see those areas that are in the winter storm watch, that kind of glazing, probably little tree damage, limited power outages. Those impacts are much lower. We start seeing some scattered power outages when we get up to that, about half inch of ice, and then significant impacts for the above half inch up into those northeastern counties. All right, let me check Facebook, YouTube, make sure. Phil, thank you for the info there. Good to know. Let me see if that helps. I'm going to talk a little closer to it. All right, let's go back here, talk about what we're seeing, watches, warnings. I want to leave that map up and the timeline, because I really think that's the key thing with this system, knowing when to be inside, when you can be out, things like that. I would just plan from Saturday afternoon through Sunday afternoon to be inside, waiting this thing out. All right, so Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, you can see the timeline there. We're still pretty quiet at that point. The system right now is back into Dallas, even well west of us. As it pushes farther east, that's when it's going to kind of pick up some of the moisture from the Gulf, push that in our direction, keep the cold temperatures around, and that is why we're going to start to see those impacts increasing into Saturday night especially, and then into Sunday morning before it transitions to some of that rain into Sunday afternoon. All right, let me go back here to the winter weather alerts. Check Facebook. Again, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to post them on here. I'm going to do my best to kind of get to everyone. All right. Michael, good evening to you. Thanks for logging on. Appreciate it. Let me spend some time doing questions here, because that in and of itself is the gist of the forecast as far as the graphics are concerned. Christy, glad our generator just arrived. Yeah, perfect timing for it. Michael, chance I will be going to work on Sunday. So we still will have freezing rain concerns the first half of the day. The second half of the day, it will likely be pouring down rain. But as far as your work is concerned, it will kind of just depend on what they're thinking for their employees. I think the freezing rain potential is the first half of the day. Will the airport be clear on Monday in Atlanta? So that's the thing with this system. Everything that is falling will be done by the time we get to Monday. Where I think the airport could still see some issues is kind of the ripple effect across the country, because this is just a massive storm system. And so even if things are not necessarily still falling on Monday, we're going to see those kind of ripple effects across the country that could still lead to some delays, cancellations, things like that at the airport. All right. Yeah, Phil, no worries. I am tall, so I'm trying to stand as close as I can here to the microphone, but thank you for that. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Let's see. The airport on Monday, another great question, Steve. Yeah, so the airport on Monday, I think, like I said, as far as things falling, we will not see that as far as additional rain, freezing rain. But the ripple effects, I think, are going to be pretty significant. For instance, if you're flying to Dallas, there is still going to be a carryover where they need to get their infrastructure still back up and running after the ice. They're still dealing with ice. They're looking at sleet. This is going to be kind of a definite system that pushes across the country with some more impacts. All right. It's going to be 17 degrees on Monday. So the morning temperature on Tuesday is likely to be in the teens. Monday, the high temperature is going to be above freezing. We have us at 35 Monday afternoon, and so that will definitely help. We're going to start to see temps above freezing Monday. Tuesday will be above freezing, but Monday morning still could cause some issues with kind of a refreeze potential. All right, let me check YouTube. Great questions, everyone. Weather look like for Tuesday? Yeah, so we're going to be totally quiet as far as the storm system will be long gone by Tuesday, and temperatures will be above freezing. So if we see some significant impacts for some of us, I do think Tuesday will look a whole lot better compared to what we're looking at in some spots this weekend. Johnny, good point. So it is going to rain Sunday afternoon. It will melt the ice. That is a true point and something we've been emphasizing. However, the freezing rain potential will be done. The rain that falls Sunday afternoon, yes, there might be a couple hours where the roads look better and things are good. That all will refreeze Sunday night. And so Monday morning, if you're up at 6 a.m., you're headed out to work. If the kids, I don't think they will, but if they have school Monday morning, there will still be some very slick roads in those locations where there's moisture, there's puddles, bridges, just all of those areas I think still could have some issues into Monday morning. Tuesday should be a whole lot better. All right, good questions. So let's talk about the ice accumulation here again, where we have the ice storm warning. That's about 1/4 inch to an inch. I want to talk about this other graphic because this is a pretty good depiction of when stuff is going to start, kind of when it moves out. 7 o'clock Saturday evening, we start to see the freezing rain really arriving there. 10 o'clock, you can see that pushing through. And it's with us all Saturday night into about 7 a.m. Sunday morning. Then we do get the rain into Sunday afternoon. That will melt things. That is good. We're expecting that. The rain will be here. It's once we get into Sunday night, our temperatures are going to fall yet again and get below freezing. So Monday morning could still be very slick. All right, so let's talk about ice totals. I'm going to let that play on through and check Facebook one more time. Let's see. How does the wedge make the difference in the east? And so that is a huge player in this forecast. Because we are so close, relatively speaking, to the mountains, what happens is this cold air at the surface, it kind of gets wedged up against those mountains and it cannot go anywhere until there's a big mechanism to push that out of the way, which we will likely not have until Sunday afternoon with that rain coming through. And so you can kind of see on this map there with the ice forecast where the wedge is shaping up, where you see that kind of curvature from Atlanta up toward Blairsville. That is that cold air spilling down, and then it drastically warms up the farther south you go. We could be looking at temperatures on Sunday afternoon into the 50s and 60s into southern Georgia. Into Florida, they are looking at mid-80s. They're looking at some significant record-breaking high temperatures even in Florida, not that far away here. So it just goes to show you how kind of dynamic this system is. Wind gusts, good question, Christian. So wind gusts probably about 25 to 35 miles an hour on Sunday. They come down into Monday, but that alone combined with the icing potential or icing likelihood, I would say, I think Sunday, especially early on, there could still be some power outages. Timing on this tomorrow. So let's go back to the timing here because if you absolutely have to be out, I know not everyone has the option to just be at home all day. There should not be any issues the first half of the day. We get into the second half. You can see the far northern counties likely seeing some spotty freezing rain. There's 7 o'clock in Atlanta, for instance. We are not seeing freezing rain. We're looking good at that point. It's after sunset. Those temperatures start to drop. We see the freezing rain coming in. So by 7 o'clock at the very latest, if you have the option tomorrow evening, I would be inside. If you have to go out in it, be very, very careful because we are looking at some icing, some significant icing tomorrow night and then into early Sunday morning. No chance that the rain Sunday afternoon is snow or ice, Johnny, instead of rain. So at this point, it won't be snow. At this point, there's a very, very, there's pretty much no chance it's going to be snow is what I'll say. The freezing rain, yes, there is still a possibility on Sunday afternoon that it could be kind of stubborn, kind of stuck in place, not moving much. The expectation at this point, and I do think that we will see rain coming through with temperatures getting warm enough relative to freezing to allow it to be rain. That's something we'll keep watching, but I do think we're going to see rain start to transition. Thoughts on metro school closings? So Heidi, into Monday morning, even though, watch what happens here as we go into Sunday night, there's 2 o'clock, you can see the system, it is totally gone by about 10 p.m. Sunday night. It will be out of here, but I think where we could see some issues with school closings is into Monday morning because of this moisture refreezing. Those neighborhood side streets, the kind of just areas where we've had puddling, the moisture, overpasses, I still think things could be very slick Monday morning, and I could definitely still see some school closings Monday morning. Tuesday morning, probably not as much, but I think Monday morning there still could be some issues. Ice should be clear by Sunday afternoon. So as far as the ice that's accumulating that you will walk outside and potentially see on surfaces, be slipping around a little bit, yes, it should be melted by Sunday afternoon. But with that said, the caveat again, things will refreeze into Sunday night. So there might be a period where you think, oh, everything looks better, and then we get that refreeze potential probably as early as about 9 p.m. Sunday evening when temperatures continue to drop back down. All right. Good questions all. Checking Facebook one more time. Tuesday morning travel conditions, considering high of 25 Monday. So in Atlanta itself, we have a high of 35, but you're right, as you get farther north, those highs are going to stay cooler. And so what I would say Tuesday morning, there still could be some slick spots, mainly for the mountains. I think by the time we get into the next couple days after this storm system, things will really start to warm up. Again, relatively speaking, we're still looking at probably low 40s, but the sunshine down here in Georgia, the angle of the sun is really going to help to melt this pretty fast. So that's something to keep in mind, but I think as far as that is concerned, we'll be looking a whole lot better into even Monday afternoon. Has there been any shift as far as the direction of the storm? Thankfully, no. We've seen it pretty consistent. I'll run through the model one more time for you. It's been pretty locked in, which is great. As meteorologists, we can see this and say we have very good confidence this is what's going to happen. If anything was to change, what I think here into probably, there's a look at 2 a.m. Sunday. If there was any change that I think could occur, it would be to shave off some of those ice areas south of Atlanta. I think from Atlanta up to the northeast, we're pretty locked in. But Griffin, for instance, Carrollton, I could see those totals going lower, just depending on kind of how this shapes up and how much cold air stays in place. All right, great questions all. We're going to be here, of course, all weekend watching this. The whole First Alert Weather team here tracking it. We're going to be doing lots on streaming. Your questions are very important, so make sure to keep them coming. Even if I don't answer them right now, we do have to get off here in just a second, but post them, please, because I like to go back and kind of look, and I'll try and get to as many as I can here after the fact. And we'll, of course, be on all through this evening. Checking Facebook one more time. Kennesaw, let me go through ice totals here. Courtney, yeah, no worries. Let me see if I can go back to that ice totals graphic, because it's a good depiction of kind of different areas of what we're seeing. You can tell, especially with that cold air wedge, the northeastern counties there, where we get close to an inch would likely be the far northeastern counties. I don't expect everyone to be seeing an inch of ice. However, look at the 0.3 there in Atlanta, look at the 0.7 in Canton. That alone will cause issues. A glaze of ice, a tiny bit of ice, will cause some issues on the roads. So just because those totals are lower, we still expect some impacts. I think the worst impacts will be in northeastern Georgia, especially up into North Carolina. Freezing rain and ice. Correct, yes, freezing rain and the ice with no power is definitely a problem. I would just, like I said, plan on being home all weekend if you can. I know that's not an option for everyone, but if you're out and about, just be very careful. We're going to be watching this closely, and we'll go ahead and, let's see, wrap things up. Again, keep your questions, comments coming. I'll try my best to get back to them here. And then we also have an update for you from the A&F Investigates team coming up here in just a bit on the incoming storm. But otherwise, have a great night, everyone.
And you're joined now by Atlanta News First Investigates consumer reporters. I'm Anastasia Olmos, and this is Better Call Harry Samler. We have been putting out a lot of content on our website, trying to keep homeowners and drivers, people safe right now as we prepare and face possible winter weather here in the Metro Atlanta, North Georgia area, wherever you may be across the South that may be getting weather. Harry, Better Call Harry has done several tips. You want to start with what drivers need to know?
Yeah, you know what, and before I forget, we had a piece that aired today, and as soon as I came off the set, one of the anchors approached me. It was actually Tracy Hutchinson that came up with it. She said, "Well, did you talk about the windshield wipers?" And I'm like, "Wait, what are you talking about? About how do you
Put 'em
how
up.
do you protect your windshield wipers from freezing?" And I want to bring this up before I forget it
Okay.
again. I don't know if you all have ever done this here. I look much better this way.
He said he looks better
I
when
look-
his
I-
face is
I look
covered by
better- I look
cardboard.
bet- All right, so take a piece of cardboard,
this?
a couple
Okay.
couple pieces of cardboard, and if you put these over your windshield before the freezing rain comes, and
Okay.
and slip it under the windshield wipers,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're saving yourself a lot,
Yes.
and your windshield wipers won't get stuck to the windshield, and
Okay.
then plus you'll keep the ice off of your windshield, and you could just pull this off. And another way to do it is a tarp. All right, I'm going to put down the
Okay.
prop here.
Throw that down there.
Because there was a whole list of stuff, Stassi, that came out, and some of these you may know, some of these you may not. The first thing, and I think this is kind of obvious to everybody, is you want to have, well, first of all, you don't want to drive if we're going to have this kind of ice. But if for some reason you know that people are going to anyway, no matter what. But if for some reason you have to, you know what, before this hits, or if you're watching this now and we're in the middle of it, you do want to have a full tank of gas. And I'll tell you who knows this better than anybody is anybody who was involved in the Ice-mageddon snowpocalypse of 2024 when people got stuck in their cars for, some people
Yeah.
were in their cars for like 24 hours.
Yeah.
With no food, no water. We'll get to that quickly. But filling up your tank, I mean, that's like your lifeline to like heat and,
But
having,
also doing that, even if you're not going to be on the road, and you just stay parked. But if the roads do ice, if the interstates ice, and then the fuel trucks can't deliver gas to the gas stations, very similar to a hurricane, then you have gas for when things get better that you can get to where you need to go.
Right, you should. And then another thing they brought up, and when I say they, I'm talking about the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, was keeping at least half a tank of gas
All times.
at a minimum.
Yeah.
So that your lines don't freeze. That's one that I didn't know. So let's move on, because let's see if you know this one. Did you check your tire pressure?
My car tells me. My car tells me when there's an issue.
I think everybody's, at this point, almost everybody's
Yeah,
car
yeah.
tells them, and it's really annoying. And here's the problem in Atlanta. It's like,
Hot,
25
cold.
degrees one day, and then it's 55
Right.
degrees the next, and your tires are going back and forth. And of course, me being a dad and having done all of these stories, I actually have an air pump
Yeah.
that I connect to the battery terminals and hook it up, and I'll, within seconds, you're adding like, 4 or 5 pounds of air
Yeah.
to keep your tires,
So-
where they should be.
Because of the cold, people should check to make sure that their air is at the right level.
Oh yeah, you don't want to drive around on low tires. I mean, you really don't. They're not gonna grip as well. You're just asking for trouble. But again, like I said, we're going to keep saying this. If it is icy, or if it's icy right now, especially if the trucks can't get into your subdivision or your apartment complex or wherever you live, you don't want to go anywhere. So these are things to think about beforehand, and also for next time.
Anything
as
else?
well. Yeah, no, we got a couple
go.
more
Let's go.
here. The windshield wipers, the windshield wiper fluid. It de-ices, so make sure you fill up and have plenty of it, because if rain is hitting your windshield and it starts freezing, you're going to be using it nonstop. And finally, on this one, this is another one that so many people remember who got stuck in the ice storm, is that you want to have some snacks in the car. You want to have a blanket in the car, and jumper cables.
Jumper cables.
That's it. I think I've hit everything here. And these are, again, these are all recommendations from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Oh, you know what? I forgot one thing, Stassi.
course,
and this
of course.
Well, of course.
What do
Because,
you got?
well, this is for parents. And you know what? And I didn't know this, and now my daughter's 16 and she's actually driving, is that you're supposed to take off your infant or toddler's puffy coat. Before you secure them in the car seat. So you put them in the car seat first, and then you cover them with a nice snuggly blankie. Because your child is not as secure, and it creates issues. So yeah, that's the way you want to do it. So I think I covered everything there.
Car
What do you want to
safety.
talk about next,
Let's jump
Stassi?
into homes because you did a really interesting story there on pipes freezing and you were all over touching things, turning them off and putting things on. Tell us what we need to do.
Well, in doing the story yesterday, I found out that I have a tiny leak.
Of course.
Of course.
Another day in the life.
Oh, and listen, and the reason we do these reminders, like yesterday when I was recording what we call on TV the stand-up, where I'm walking and talking, I forgot to disconnect my hose. So if you live in a house or a townhouse and you have the hose still connected to the spigot, that water, if there's water in there and it freezes and expands and contracts, a lot of people end up with water damage because of the garden hose.
And you mentioned that there had been a bunch of pipes that froze in recent years here in Atlanta. I'm newer here,
So that was 2022.
Yeah.
And it was it the day after Christmas?
Oh,
it was right around Christmas time.
So the water that's in the pipes froze and the dangers.
It froze for so long and it was such a hard freeze. I mean, everything froze. And then the pipes don't break when they freeze. The pipes break when they start thawing. I mean, it cracks the pipe, but then it starts to warm up. So like in the middle of the freeze, it's like, oh, everything's fine. But no, your water lines are frozen. And this happened to tens of thousands of Atlantans.
Oh my gosh.
It happened to businesses. And I'll never forget, Stassi, driving through Phipps Plaza into the parking deck just to see what was going on. And there was no way to protect the pipes in the parking garage that ran underneath in that parking. It was like a maze of pipes. And there was just water gushing everywhere. There was no way to protect them.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
that's where we get into number one. We started with a garden hose. You disconnect the hose, and then you either wrap it in a towel or you put that foam cover that you get at Home Depot or Lowe's or Ace Hardware.
Foam.
Yeah, the foam.
I thought you said phone cover. I was like,
It is a foam cover. It's
foam.
like a little.
Okay.
Did I say something?
I thought you said phone, like a cell phone. Like
Oh
a cell
yeah,
phone
phone.
cover?
Put
Yeah,
your
and I was like,
phone.
that makes no sense.
So listen, put your phone on the spigot.
Stop with the bad advice.
And tell it
Okay.
to call you
So
if you
you
have
had
a
a
leak.
styrofoam. Help. So you had a styrofoam kind of cup that you got from the Home Depot appliance store.
Not like a styrofoam cup, but like it's like a little It's like a little box that goes over. And
That's what
keeps,
you were putting on. I was like, what is he doing? What is that?
Yeah, it's spoken
Okay.
like a true non-homeowner.
I'm sorry that I haven't been able to afford a home yet.
See,
However,
listen-
I need to learn these things.
Yeah, I know. Listen, if you're over 50, these things, it's like if you know them or not, it just pops into
Okay.
your head.
Okay, good.
Especially if you're a guy like me. Now, here's another important thing for people to know, and some people know this and some people don't. There's a shut-off inside your house or your townhouse to the spigot. This is separate than the water turn-off to the entire house. What you're supposed to do before winter is go in there, you turn off the spigot to turn off the connection to the spigot, so that's on the inside, and then you go outside, you open the faucet and let any water out, so it's all gone. Step number 2 is if you're going to be out of town, you want to know where the water shutoff is, and that means going into your basement or wherever your water heater is. I mean, they're in different places,
Yeah.
but you need to find it because you want to shut that off, especially if you're not going to be there. Or once the pipes break, if you're in
If
that
they break,
position,
yeah.
if they break,
yeah.
if we hope that they don't,
Yeah.
you want to be able to shut it off real fast because
Okay.
water damage is like the worst thing.
Whole other issue, yeah.
It is. And I think that's what, did we cover everything there? You want to ask me about something else about that one? Hang on a second.
Harry
So-
loves to be interviewed.
Well, no, I mean, I've got a whole list here and I
What
want to
else
make
you
sure that
got?
I get
Yeah.
everything. Oh,
So
dripping.
that's pipes, yes. And,
Drip-
and leaving the drip, right?
Yeah, so when you drip your faucets, this is a quiz. So do you drip the cold or the hot?
Oh, it's a quiz. I'm from California. You drip the cold.
Okay, yes, but you also drip the hot too.
Oh, okay.
So you
Perfect.
you turn them on both just enough so that there's a very
Yeah. Anyone
light-
in the north, knows that that's an average winter, right?
Yeah, well, yes, that's like everybody knows.
So at what point should people do that?
Well, I mean, listen, if it's going below 32 for a long period of time and you're getting a really hard freeze, and you've got pipes that are up against an exterior wall, then yeah, you want to drip those specific faucets, although most people just don't take a chance and you drip everything. If you
yeah.
have a house with a crawl space and it's not heated under there and all those pipes are exposed or they don't have foam insulation, then yeah, you want to go ahead and drip everything. But really what you want to do is you want to protect them. And if you can get those little foam, have you ever seen the foam protectors?
You know what? Just something went off in my head right now. People could probably see that happened because I actually rent a townhome, and when we had the inspection done with the city of Atlanta, they said that there wasn't weatherproofing covering on the AC unit, and so my landlords had to get a kind of styrofoam
Right.
cover that they put over the wire that's exposed to the elements for my AC unit. So that's also something that you could consider is weatherproofing some of your appliances that may be outside in the elements.
Yeah, I mean, look, foam covers are good. You know, water heater wraps, good. But in this case, protecting your pipes, you want to open on the inside. If a sink is up against an outside wall, you can open up the cabinet underneath to let the heat get in.
We are the insurance consumer experts here at Atlanta News First. I know number one is ahead of any damage, take a video of
Right.
your home, walk around. You can take photos, yes, but a video really shows everything, all of your contents that you have in there, the outside, the inside. That way, if anything does happen and you do have to submit an insurance claim, you've got evidence of what was damaged and
Yeah,
what it looked like.
and forgive me for looking for my notes, but I just want to make sure that we don't forget anything. Because a lot of people, and I will say this, to save money, especially in Metro Atlanta where we have some of the highest rates in the country on car insurance, a lot of people go for the minimum. And some people only go for the mandatory, which is liability. Well, liability covers you for the damage you cause to somebody else's car. It's not going to cover the damage to your car. And when I first started researching insurance many years, or should I say decades ago. For me.
I wasn't going to say
Sorry,
it. But go ahead.
when we started researching, I realized that, we talk about the main three, which is liability, collision, which most people are familiar with because it covers the damage if you have an accident and it pays the body shop for the damage to your car. But then there's something that a lot of people bypass, and this is really important for an ice storm because we have so many falling tree limbs, and that's comprehensive. And comprehensive is not that expensive. I think I'm trying to remember my policy for the entire year. I think it was an extra $15 or $20 a month to have comprehensive.
Worth it.
So a perfect example of comprehensive would be your windshield.
Yep.
So if something cracks your windshield, then you make a claim, and supposedly it doesn't count against you. But if a tree branch falls on your hood or a tree falls on your car and totals your car, that's where comprehensive comes in. So you definitely want to have that. But there's some other things too that you should have, especially if we have another situation like this and you're going to actually go out there and brave the ice, which you shouldn't. You should stay home and watch Atlanta News First because you might see Stassi or me. But listen, if you don't have health insurance, you want to make sure on your auto policy that you have bodily injury coverage. Because here's what happens. If you are in a crash, we hope you are not, and you go to the hospital, what we've learned, or what I've learned over many, many years from experts, is that hospitals, once they find out, they will ask you, what kind of accident were you in, if you're able to talk and communicate, or if they know it's an auto accident. When they check the auto box in the system, it goes to a whole different set of fees. And you could walk out of there. We did a story about this years ago about a woman who had a car accident. It wasn't her fault. It wasn't an ice storm, but just in this case, she ended up in the hospital. And by the time she walked out of there with minor injuries, she had run up $80,000 in medical bills. Now, who's going to pay that? If you don't if you have health insurance through your employer, you could do it that way. But what if you don't? And what if you don't have any health insurance right now because health insurance premiums for so many people went way up and maybe you dropped it? This is the kind of thing that's going to cover you. I'm going to check one more thing here before I forget, Stassi, because
It's so interesting. You never usually print out papers and refer to them, so you know that this is a serious situation.
Yeah, I know. There's just
You're
so
trying
much.
to hit all your points, yeah.
Well, it's true. There's so much here to go through it, and this is a reference, and most of this comes from insurance experts.
Experts, yeah.
But it's going to make a huge difference. I do want to. Let's see. Hang on. Bear with me. This is what happens when you do like a podcast like this, and you're just damage to others. You want to if your car damages somebody else's car, or let's say a mailbox. Let's say you're sliding on ice and you smash somebody's brick mailbox. Do you know what it is to rebuild one of those things? I hate to say why I know the answer, but I do.
Yes, you do.
It's between $1,500 and $1,800
On a mailbox.
to rebuild one of those. I did not personally hit it, and I'm not going to say who that I know did, but I'm just going to say, yeah, it's expensive. In this case, this would have covered it. And you know what? Look, anybody can pull out their phone. I mean, right now, if I pull out my phone and I pull up my insurance app, I can immediately look and see what kind of coverage that I have. And real quick, back to bodily injury. If you only have $25,000 in coverage for bodily injury, that's not going to cover your emergency room costs if you end up there with 5 CT scans and possible surgery. I mean, it's going to be a lot more. So what's the correct amount? That's debatable. This is just a rough. Listen, I have $250,000 worth of coverage, just in case, and it's not that much more than $100,000 coverage. But you can go in there and you can look in the app for whatever insurance you have. If it's a major provider, we'll break it down and show you what you have, and then you have to figure out what kind of coverage you want for your car, because cars now are what, $45,000, Stassi? $50,000, the average car. Wait, why am I asking you? I know this.
I bought a used car.
Well, we're both consumer
not that
experts.
much,
but listen, if your car gets totaled and the other driver's insurance only has $25,000 in coverage and your car gets totaled, you want to have enough to cover the full amount of your car.
Yeah.
So keep that all in mind. I think I got everything in there.
Yeah, you did. You hit a lot. Let's just jump real quick to the homeowner's insurance and the type of coverage and claims, because, one of the concerns with this particular storm is ice in the trees. So just really the weight weighing down on trees. You have done several stories of what to do if a tree falls on your home. And we don't have to jump too far ahead into the future, but the kind of coverage that you might want in that situation.
Well, I mean, listen, if you have a mortgage, I mean, your lender is going to require that you have insurance, and if not, they're going to buy it for you at a huge upcharge to have you covered. This is a tough one because it depends on what the value of your home is. But let's just say, for example, that a tree falls on your roof and you need a new roof for $10,000. I think in this case, instead of making a recommendation, I think the best thing that you can do is once again go online and see what's covered. And you want to see, especially, there are add-ons that you can get, because most policies are not going to cover mold, which is a huge problem in Atlanta, because the minute water gets into your house, tree falls on your house, the ice melts, now you got water inside, you got about 24 hours before mold starts growing. And once it starts growing, now you're talking about a remediation.
Yeah.
So I really think the best advice that we can give here is to contact your agent or call the 1-800 number and ask questions. That's the best thing that you can do. Yeah. And also find out if you have coverage for a hotel, if you have coverage for food. Let's say when we lose power, if we lose power and you lose everything in your fridge, it's all trapped. That's part of your claim.
Yep.
All the meals that you eat out, that could be part of your claim, but you want to make sure that you have that coverage. And if you don't, find out how much it is to add it to see if it's worth it.
Yeah.
And most of the time, I will tell you this, it is. It is worth it to have the coverage.
Okay. Okay, all great advice. We have several different stories on our website right now, specifically under our Investigates tab. That's atlantanewsfirst.com, and then click on Investigates. We've got shorter stories if you want to find the specific details of things like dripping your pipes or a styrofoam cover on the spigot, things like that. Just head to our website, and of course, stay with Atlanta News First. We are going to be on air and online throughout this entire winter weather.
Hi, everybody. I'm consumer investigator Better Call Harry here with consumer investigator Anastasia Olmos. And we want to talk about safety because when it comes to heat, I can tell you time and time again, because most of what I do is going to people's homes because they write me emails about issue, and Anastasia deals with the same thing. So we're going to talk about heat. And I'm going to turn this over to Anastasia because you've been doing a lot on this.
Right, with the threat of this weather and ice really, weighing heavy on trees and power lines. One of the scares here is that we could lose power, and we have been covering top to bottom of what Georgia Power and different power companies are doing, bringing in linemen, and we're really hoping for the best. But if you should run out of power, you got to think about these temperatures being so low and your family being in the cold. So we want to warn you about some things that you should and shouldn't do if you are heating your home. One of the things that we hear all the time, Harry, is that people will use their stove because it runs off of gas. Well, carbon monoxide poisoning is deadly, and it also is a silent killer. So that is one thing you really don't want to do, is use your stove or any sort of gas combustion to heat your home. If you are using a space heater, actually that can also create carbon monoxide. You can use it to heat the home or a small room, but don't fall asleep with it on. You want to turn it off. You want to make sure that it's at least 20 feet away from anything that's flammable because it is producing heat. And don't use an extension cord to get it closer to you away from the wall, because that extension cord could also cause a fire. You want to plug it directly into the wall. Harry, the other thing is generators. A lot of people will be pulling out their generators, if you do have one, if we do lose power, and you want to keep those outside. Even in the garage with the door open is still a danger for carbon monoxide poisoning. And Harry, you are a dad. You have been through all of this. What would your few, takeaways be for in-home safety?
It's funny. I am going to bring up one that I was talking to a homeowner yesterday she was having a problem with her new HVAC, which she said has never really worked the way it should because it won't cool one room in particular, and it's the room over the garage. And so my first question was, well, is the garage heated? Which I knew that it wasn't. And she's like, no. And I said, well, you've got all that cold air that's sitting below you. And one of the things that I've done, and I've never had an issue with, but I don't use a space heater, but the radiator style heaters that have a thermostat on it. I use that to heat my garage. I check it, and it warms everything up. And you know what? The room's not cold above.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I've always done. When we talk, I get scared as a dad. I get scared when I hear the word space heater, because me personally, you don't want to use it unless you're in the room with it.
Yes.
You're gonna leave. And and if you have kids, it's just the fire departments answer a lot of calls this time of year because people don't pay attention and something bad happens, and we don't want anything bad to happen to you. The oven thing. Not necessarily not just with the gas ovens, but I've been in people's homes where the only way they were keeping the house warm was to turn on the electric stove. And this one woman had it on broil. So both coils were on, and plenty of heat was coming out of there. But think about this. What happens when you burn up the coil and you potentially start a fire? And a lot of fires start that way. You're putting a lot of load on your electricity. There's just too much to gamble, and you should never. There are no circumstances where you should ever be doing that.
Yeah, I've walked into homes doing stories where they were heating the home with the stove, and I've started to feel, you get that headache or a little bit nauseous, and those are some symptoms that you are being exposed to high levels of carbon monoxide. But also the other thing is a lot of renters are doing this because they don't have heat, because the laws for renters here in the state of Georgia haven't been so clear cut in what landlords need to do. And so renters have been stuck fighting for things like heat. And you do have a right to have heat, plumbing, and electricity under Georgia law. We have tons of details on that and what you should do if you don't have that. But that's the situation that I've walked into where renters are stuck in the cold. And so some advice for safe heating, if you do lose power, you want to keep heat inside. So you want to put towels underneath the doors to try to keep any of that draft from coming in underneath. Close the curtains to try to keep anything from the window, the cold getting in. In addition, a video that is going viral on social media right now is, people will like tape or get some sort of stuff to put in the doors, but this woman took a bed sheet, a fitted bed sheet, and she put it around the door and closed the door, and it kind of closed up those cracks. So even something like that, getting creative, picking one room in the house that doesn't have windows. Also try to stay away from, the windows that may have older trees near them or things like that, like a patio room would be cold. The older trees, if they do get heavy ice, they could possibly fall. You don't want to be in that room. So just trying to think strategically about how you can stay safe and warm inside of your house. Anything else, Harry?
I'm just trying to think, when it gets really cold like this, especially when it gets into the 20s, it's really easy to find where the leaks are in your house, where the air is pouring in. It's usually around windows and doors. Mm-hmm. And if it's really, really cold, and I will take, I have again, because I'm a dad, I have a roll of the aluminum foil tape that they use around ductwork in your AC, and I will take that and I will put it around the windows. I will put it around if my front door is leaking, and I'll open it up, and when I close it again, I'll seal. But I usually do it for just like overnight if if it's really coming in. I mean, but there's so many things that you can do that just by going to Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace, Walmart, Target. I mean, they're all going to have the foam weather stripping. Most of them will have the foam weather stripping where you can come back and you can do these things. But and the other thing is if you have drapes, keep the drapes closed.
Yep. It sounds so little, but I mean.
No, it makes a difference.
Yeah. Okay.
And then during the day, if it's really cold, you want to open up the drapes if you're getting sunlight, because you're heating your home.
Yeah, we're hoping that the sun sticks around and melts some of this ice that we're expecting to get really across all of North Georgia. Of course, stay with us, Atlanta News First. We're streaming, we are on air, and we are online, keeping you updated with all the latest.